Super. Let's get going. So today is all about circular movement and rotations. So I'm wanting to kind of think of every part of our body as something that can move in circles as well as forward, back, side to side, etc. So it's kind of about the static stretch as much as it is about the active movement of the active movement and stretching through movement. So our muscles often like to be held in a static stretch. So you know, when we'll hold a stretch for like an extended period of time, and that's we're staying still and it's stretching that muscle. But our muscles also love to move and be stretched within movement. So today is kind of about that, playing with stretching and movement and rotations, as much as it is about a static stretch as well. Okay, so we're just going to start off with some neck and shoulder exercises, mainly because and stretching in our shoulders and neck, mainly because we tend to hold a lot of tension in our necks particularly, and with this time being very uncertain for a lot of people and bringing up things, facing things that they didn't even think they'd have to face, can be quite stressful. So I just wanted to make sure that we're nice and relieving that stress and giving it a space for it to go to, and getting it out of our bodies as much as possible. And so we're just going to start with bringing our shoulders nice and relaxed. So just feel nice and relaxed in your body, and we're going to take our ear over to our shoulder. So just holding it here. You don't need to like pull it down. This is just the start of a movement. So don't worry if it doesn't really move much, like if it's not stretching that far. You're just kind of easing into the stretch, keeping it nice and small. Lovely. And as you hold it for longer, so obviously this one's a static stretch, as you hold it for longer, it will start to loosen up slightly as you just exhale, and it starts to ease into the stretch a little bit more. Lovely. And then just to take the stretch a little bit deeper, so I'm leaning my ear over to my right shoulder. So I'm going to use my left hand, pushing away and down, and then lifting my right hand and just placing my hand on the top of my head. And I don't need to push down with my hand, just the weight of my hand is enough, just to provide that extra little bit of stretch in the side of my neck. Just keep breathing here. If you can feel any particularly tense parts in your neck. I always feel mine right at the top. That's always my most tight bit. And then as I breathe, I start to feel that tension start to melt away. Lovely. One more breath here. And we're lifting up that hand and taking it back. Lovely. Switching it over to the other side. And again, just starting with a really small movement. So just tilting the head over as far as it wants to go without putting any kind of extra pressure into it. Shoulders are nice and relaxed, body is nice and relaxed. Lovely. And then you're just starting to feel it stretching a little bit more as it eases into it a little bit longer. Lovely. And from here, maybe lifting up that opposite hand, so this time it's my right hand, pushing that away and down, and that will just intensify that stretch on the neck, and then lifting up that hand and just placing it on the top, just to deepen that stretch a little bit more. And just letting your ear just naturally, gently pulling closer towards your shoulder. And through every inhalation and exhalation, the muscle just starts to relax that little bit more. Lovely. And then lifting that hand back up. Lovely. I want you to just take your gaze up to the sky. Start to feel the stretch all down your throat, down into the front of the neck. And then looking down and stretching all down the back. And then taking it back up, looking back up to the sky. And then looking down to the ground. And when we're here, I want us to instinct our fingers just above our head and just place the hands on your head. And this will just start to deepen the stretch in the back of the neck. We've got two big muscles that run just along the top. And that will just really help to just apply that little bit more weight just to deepen the stretch a little bit in the back of the neck. Lovely. From here, you might just want to turn your head from side to side. Just start to feel any tension in any part of the neck when you do this movement. If you feel like it's a particularly tense bit, you can just hold it there. Keep breathing and feeling the muscles start to relax a little bit more and release the tension. Fabulous. And then we're going to take our movements into rotation. So we're going to start looking up and then take our ear to shoulder, then take it down to the floor, round to the other side and back up. And then just starting with small circles, just taking the neck all the way round. And start to feel where you've already felt stretched compared to the movement in between. I always feel there's that little bit more tension on certain angles, which I haven't fully stretched out as much. Lovely. And then taking it all the way to the top and then changing directions. Again, just starting it nice and small. And then maybe taking it a little bit bigger as you start to feel more comfortable with the movement. Just letting it roll around nice and relaxed and nice and gentle. Trying to feel more fluid and less restrictions by the muscles. Lovely. And then taking your head back up on top of your shoulders. Lovely. And from here, we're just going to do our shoulders. So bringing our shoulders up to our ears. I always exhale when I bring them up, and then pushing them down, exhaling out. Breathing it in. And pushing them down. Lifting it up. And pushing them down. Lovely. And then we're going to pull our shoulders back. So pinning them back, gently pulling the shoulder blades together at the back, opening up the chest slightly, and rounding it and separating it. And opening it. And rounding it. Lovely. Open, one more round. And round. Lovely. And then again, we're going to take this into rotation. So starting with the shoulders coming up, bringing them, pulling them back to the back, and then pulling them down, and then rounding it at the front before lifting it back up again. And then just taking this as a really slow movement. And try to match your breath with it. So breathing out as you bring the shoulders down, inhaling as you bring the shoulders up. Purposely taking this really slowly. And again, starting with small circles and taking them bigger. When you do it slower, it just helps you to take that little bit more attention to where you might be feeling any tension in the muscles. Lovely. And then changing direction. So bringing the shoulders forwards and down. And lovely. And again, inhaling on the rise of the shoulders. Exhaling on the rotation coming down. Lovely. Good. I'm just going to spend a little bit more time opening up the chest at the front. I want us to interlink our fingers at the back. Pull the shoulders back together at the back, and then pull my arms down so that we're looking up to the sky, opening up that chest. You just start to feel the stretch coming up across the top of your chest. We tend to hold a lot of anxiety here. This is why people often feel tight-chested if they've got anxiety. It's literally the muscles being tightened. So it's just really good to stretch them back out. Lovely. And then lift the arms up. And you start to feel the stretch coming into the front of the shoulders, maybe down into the biceps. So taking them hands away from you. Keep your shoulders down still. Nice long neck. Looking up, opening up. And then let's take it a little bit further. Folding yourself over. Your hands all the way over the top. And this, by doing this, it just means that putting that hands coming over just provides a little bit more weight and a bit more gravity. And you can take that stretch a little bit deeper. breathing into it. Just have a little motion with your wrists here. So just taking them from one way and then opening the palms out and then palms in and palms out. And then maybe pull the wrists together and then letting them fall apart. And just notice how that feels in your chest, in your arms. When you do your wrists, palms out and palms in, you'll start to feel it more in your forearms. And as you bring your wrists together, you might feel this in your chest and your shoulders. Lovely. Let go of the hands. You know, all the way back up. And then taking it the other way. So now we're just going to, now we've opened up the chest, we're actually going to open up the shoulders. So interlocking the fingers at the front. Feel like you're holding like a beach ball kind of shape. So your arms are bent. You're just going to gently pull on the arms, separating the shoulder blades. So just doing the reverse side, opening up the back a little bit more. You might feel this in your traps as well. I often feel it there. I like that feeling. We're just opening out, stretching out. Lovely. Just give it a little wiggle around. Feels good to move my shoulders. Now we're going to focus only on the chest and our rib cage. So all of our thoracic section in our back and that all the rib cage basically. And I want you to think of this as its own unit. So it's going to move isolated to everything else. So it's not in line with your hips. It's not going to be in line with your shoulders. Within reason, obviously it's attached. So but I want you to think about it as just moving on its own. So think about right in the middle of your chest, we've got our sternum, that little hard bit where all of your ribs join in. So that's sternum there. And you're just going to push that sternum forwards. So just trying to just push the sternum forward as much as you can. Lovely. And then taking it back and round. So I do introduce my shoulders a little bit, but I'm really thinking about pulling my sternum back into my body and really like hollowing out my body as much as I can. Lovely. And then opening it forward again. Lovely. And then rounding it over and really pulling and sucking that sternum back in. Fabulous. I'm going to take it out to the side. You might start to feel a little bit more tension in the side of your tummy here. And then over to the other side. Lovely. And back again. And then over to the other side. And when we're here, it's just, again, really thinking about detaching from the hips. So I'm not leaning over. My hips are trying to stay squared. It's just my rib cage moving from one side to the next. It's not me moving all of it together. That's what I was trying to get at. And then we're going to turn them into rotations. So we're going to take our sternum forward, side, back, other side, and forward. Yeah, good. So just taking it all the way round and trying not to involve other body parts. So starting small, and then as you feel more comfortable, you can take it a bit bigger. If you find, like me, your hips just want to join the party, I really struggle with keeping my hips out of this. It's actually easier if you bend your knees and keep your hips kind of stuck in their place. Then it makes it a little bit easier. So if you struggle with your hips wanting to join in, then it is a little bit easier if you bend your knees. And then changing direction, taking it the other way, stretching it out, pulling it round, forward, side, back. So just feeling that movement. Stretching it all. Good. Lovely. Fabulous. Now moving slightly further down, we're going to work on our hips. So to start with, I want us just to drop our hips to one side. So really pushing our hips to the side. We're going to push our hips forward, take it to the other side, and then push it back. Now notice I'm keeping my back nice and straight. So I want it, I'm leaning, so my back and my hips are as one. So as my hips go forward, my back is also leaning back and taking it to the side and back. Lovely. I'm going to link them all together. So taking it all the way round. Good. Keeping your back nice and straight, pushing it forward. Just feeling any clicks, any clunks that you might have in your hips. Lovely. Try and keep your neck in line. I'm a bit of a one to just keep looking up, but try and keep your neck in line. So as you're leaning forward, you're also bringing your head down almost as well. Lovely. And then change direction, taking it the other way. Lovely. Just starting to feel more fluid with these movements as your hips start to warm up, open up, and feel a little bit more awake. Lovely. Good. From here, taking yourself back upright, you can now refocus if you move in your head as well. We're going to do some movement with our arms as well. So lifting up the arm nice and high, and I want you to lean over to the side. So big inhale in and then exhale as you fold over. Just start to feel this stretch on the side. Lovely. And then from here, you're going to bend in your hips, keeping your back as straight as you can and bring your arm up to the side. So I'm kind of like leaning over. And with my opposite hand, I'm just going to take that out the back. Some people like to place it on the small of their back, whatever you prefer. This will start to feel a stretch in the back of your hamstring here as well. Lovely. Taking it back up to the side. And then back up to the top. Lovely. Taking it over to the other side. So reaching a big inhale in, lengthening out the spine, and then take yourself sideways and over. Just starting to feel that stretch all down the side. All those little muscles in between our rib cage, all those ribs, all down the obliques, into the armpit as well. And then folding it forwards. So from here, I'm like hinging at my hips, but still leaning over. Back. The aim is to try and keep my back as flat as possible. Sometimes this is referred to as tabletop kind of position. Lovely. And just start to feel that stretching back of the hamstring as well. Lovely. Taking yourself back up to the side. And then back up to the top. Lovely. I want you to reach both hands up. Big inhale in. I want you to fold yourself forward, just hinging at your hips, keeping your back nice and straight, and just fold yourself forward. Good, lovely. Start to feel the stretch all down the back of these legs, both of your legs. Lovely. And you're going to place your right hand on your right leg and then lean over. And so we're in that same position that we were just a moment ago. Lovely. And then taking it back to the middle. And then switching over to the other side. Every time, you're just really lengthening out in the arm, lengthening out in the back. Lovely. Back to the middle. And take yourself back up. Good. So we're going to move all of these into a little bit of a sequence. So we're going to take ourselves over to the side, down to our tabletop, reaching it out to the front, over to the and then reaching up and over, back up to the top. Lovely. Over, tabletop, front, other side, tabletop, and open, and up. Good. A little bit faster, a little bit more fluid. Side, front, forward, front, side, up, over, forwards, round, forwards, over, up. Lovely. And then just start to move it in your own way. So don't need to feel as structured, just starting to float with the movement around. You might not end up in those exact positions perfectly, but you're just starting to move around nice and gently. Lovely. Lovely. And then taking it back up to the top when you next get up to the top. Lovely. We're going to switch it over to the other side. So starting just nice and slow, taking it over to one side, through the tabletop, through the middle, to the tabletop on the other side, round and up, round over and down, and front, to the side and over and up. And again, I'm just going to let you do this in your own time and with your own fluidity. So just taking it as structured or as floaty as you wish it to be today, whatever your body needs. And just feeling that motion coming around and moving through the stretches. Keep breathing. Maybe you'll notice that your hamstrings aren't hurting as much as when you are holding it statically. Lovely. One more circle round and then reaching yourself all the way back up. Lovely. Good. From here, I just want to make sure we're super tight on our tummies. So I'm going to turn my feet ever so slightly out, just so that I can feel a little bit more balance, a little softness in my knees, and reach my arms out. So when I'm here, I'm lengthening my shoulders out as wide as I can. So pulling on my hands as if someone's pulling me from this side and pulling me from that side and pulling me in opposite direction. So I'm really stretching out. And from here, I want you to lean over to one side and then reach over to the other side. And we're just literally going to pull from one side to the other, one side to the other. And actually what I'm doing here is I'm wanting you to start to feel your tummy tightening up. So when we pull ourselves from side to side, all of our obliques and our core muscles start to work a little bit of overtime, because they're really having to keep our balance and really kind of connect when we're pulling each side. Try not to let your hands pull down, keep your shoulders nice and strong, but pulling the shoulders down so you don't want your shoulders by your neck. Lovely. And take it smaller, 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 smaller. And relax. Good. Maybe give your arms a little bit of a shake. There's quite a little bit of workout just holding it. But I hope you can feel it in your tummy, like moving your tummy from side to side. And as you do it, you can see where your muscles are starting to contract more on one side than the other, just from like moving your hips and moving your ribs at different stages. Okay, cool. Let me just check my notes because I think I missed one out. Wait 1 second. No, I didn't. I'm in perfect in time. Hands and legs, bend straight in. What do I mean by that? I know what I meant by that. Sorry, I'm reading my notes and I'm like, what? Okay, cool. Right. So we've already started to feel a bit of a stretch in our hamstrings, but I want to take that a little bit deeper, particularly if we've been spending more time sitting than usual. When we sit, we tend to just start to pull in slightly on our hamstrings, or they just sit a little bit more uncomfortably, so just to stretch them out a little bit more. So we're going to kind of do a similar position to what we did in our tabletop. Starting to set yourself forward to begin with, and I want you to take your opposite hand to your foot, and then from here, keeping your hips square, I want you to try and lift your opposite hand up. Okay, keep looking to the floor for the time being. Just by leaning over to one side, you can start to feel a stretch on one side, but I want you to think about your hips. So if you just have a little look for a moment, if you keep your hips square, that's ideal, but it's really easy to twist your hips when you're in this position. So try and keep your hips square, so my hips will look the same if I've leaned over to one side or if I'm in the middle. They might change micro, but you don't want to kind of like lean over to one side. Does that make sense? Because then we'll be working on different muscles. So try and keep your hips as square as you can, and then twisting that hand up. So just holding it here for a moment. And maybe just look down towards your foot so there's not any tension in your neck. Lovely. Walking your hands across the floor, and then I want you to take it to the other side. So just popping your hand on that foot, and then reaching the other arm up. And again, just looking down at the foot to begin with. Just starting to feel the stretch from the knee side, the arms around the left side. Keeping your hips square. And just holding it here. If your foot feels too far away, then just hold yourself on your leg instead. That's also fine. You don't need to reach the foot necessarily. Just holding onto the leg is also fine. Lovely. Walking your hands back across to leg number one. So now I'm back to my right leg. And this time what I want you to try is start to twist your shoulders open. So you're trying to open out your chest and maybe look up to the sky. But this is where the movement in the hips really starts to kick in. So really try and keep your hips as square as you can. Don't like twist over in the hips. So try and keep your hips square and just rotate as much as you can. If you start to feel neck ache, just take it back to looking down. But you just want to open your chest out that little bit more. Try and keep your hips as square as you can. Lovely. And then relax. Take it back over to side number two. So now I'm back on my left side. Again, focus on them hips, keeping square. Opposite hand touches foot or leg. And then opening out. And see if you can try and open. You can push on your foot or on the floor to twist open even more. But at the same time, try and keep your hips as square as you can. If you feel that your neck is straining to look up, then just take your gaze to a comfortable place so that your neck isn't working too hard. But really pulling your shoulders open, opening up the chest up a little bit, And then taking it back down to the middle. Lovely. Bringing yourself back upright. Just give your legs a little bit of a bend, just to bring a little bit of life to them. Maybe give them a little bit of a shake. We're going back in for more. Okay, good. So feet are nice and comfortably apart, nice and wide as they were before. Walking yourself back down. I want you to bring hands onto your toes. If this feels uncomfortable, you can bring them onto your legs. That's also fine. But I want you to bring them onto your feet if you can. And from here, I want you to bend your knees and bring your pelvis as low as you can. So knees are coming out, pelvis is sitting down. Lovely. And then from here, try keeping your hands on your knees. You're going to take your head down and you're going to try and straighten out your legs. So bring your head down and then keep your elbows out like in this kind of shape. I'm trying to like pull through. Lovely. Bending the knees again. Pelvis comes down. Maybe have a little crabby kind of moment here. Feel a little bit of a stretch in the hips. And we're going to open it back up, straightening back out. Lovely. Bend the legs one more time. Now, what we want you to do, you can do the same thing again, or if you wanted to make it slightly different, you can wrap your hands behind the back. This kind of gives a bit more of a pancake shape. You can lose a bit of balance, so careful about the balance. Take it nice and gently. But you can kind of like wrap behind to make it slightly harder for you, and then kind of like pulling up, and it helps to pull you through a little bit more. So just straighten the legs one more time, whether you wrap behind or keep your hands at the front, it doesn't matter. And just breathing, feeling the stretch in the back of the legs. Getting ever closer to your flat pancake. Lovely. And then unthread your hands so you can place them. Take your feet nice and wide. We're going to do some side lunges. So you're just going to bend your leg to one side and then straighten that leg and bend the other. And you're just starting to feel a bit of a stretch in the inner thigh. Taking it up and over, up and over. Lovely. And we're just kind of like easing into it. And as you feel more comfortable, maybe to get a little bit lower. If that feels comfortable going nice and low, then you might be able to flex up that front foot, starting to take it really into a deeper stretch. Taking it up, over, whichever feels right for you. Lovely. I don't know if you could hear that, but my hips just had a little click. It's just got into the right position. Lovely. Okay, now from here, what we're going to do is start taking it through the middle. But we're not going to leave it to one side. So we're going to take it through the middle, flex up our foot, roll ourselves around so we stand, so we turn into lunge position on the side, and then taking it back round to the side, through the middle, flex up the other foot, round, taking it into that lunge. We're just going through that whole motion, feeling that rotation in the hip, flex, round, through. Crabby pose, flex, lunge. Lovely. And just keep on walking your hands along with you as you take it through those movements. Really starting to open up the inner thighs, open up your hips a little bit more. Lovely. Good. And we're going to take it a step further. So as you come round, wherever you're in your lunge position, hands come either side of your front foot. I want you just to start to straighten that front leg, flexing up your front foot, and then rebend. Don't worry if your leg doesn't go straight. Mine doesn't for the first few many times, but we're just starting to straighten it as much as you can. So mine's still bent, and I'm just starting to feel a stretch. Listen to your body, feel what feels right, and you just, as you go from side to side, as your legs warm up and start to feel more comfortable in that position, that will just start straightening out. So taking it through, lunge, straighten, back through, to the other side. Lovely. You start to feel a little bit more confident. If this feels okay, you can take your hands off. Taking it down without the hands. Maybe bring your hands for when you straighten the leg, but you can take it without hands as you go around. Just to make it a little bit more intense. Up to you though, whatever you and your body are in the mood for today. Lovely. And let's just do one more on each side. 1, 2, the other side. So hopefully you start to feel nice and stretched. From here, just bringing that knee down, and then, you know what, I've just looked at the time. I always go over on these. I'm just going to do a little bit more on the hamstrings. Actually, we've done loads of hamstrings. Let's just do a little bit more on the hips. I'll skip out the hamstring bit. So plant the foot down, and then just sink down into your hips. So let me shuffle back a little bit. So I'm just sinking down into my hips. Now when I'm here, my knees directly above my ankle. So it's just keeping it in a nice position, keeping them hips square, and just opening up the hip a little bit more at the front. Lovely. If this feels okay, you might want to grab a wall or something to feel balanced. You might want to take your back leg bent. See if you can hold on to it and maybe give it a little pull. And this will just be stretching all of your quads a little bit more and pulling it up into the hamstring, into the hip flexor, just that little bit more as well. Don't worry if you don't need that. That's completely normal and fine as well. Lovely. Relax that down. Switch over to the other side. Into that lunge position on the other side. And just starting to sink into the hips. Opening up the hip flexor. That movement's really started to bring a bit of heat into my body. It's good, it's good. Lovely. And again, my ankle is over my knee. I'm pushing my hips through. Trying to keep my pelvis under as much as I can. To make this deeper stretch, you can squeeze your butt cheek, and this will just help to relax your hip flexor even more. And again, you can also, I recommend having something nearby so you don't lose your balance. Bend your back leg and pull that foot towards your butt to stretch out your quad and more into the hip flexor as well. You can also do a bind here as well if you're feeling super fancy, but I don't think it necessarily needs it. That's just great for an Instagram picture. And then relax. Lovely. Let's just land with sitting ourselves on the floor in our little cross-legged position, bringing your palms of your feet together, your soles of your feet together. I always mix up palms and soles. They are like the hands, I think. Sitting up nice and straight and just pulling your knees a little bit closer to the floor. Nice straight back, feeling that stretch all on the inner thigh. Maybe a little bit in the hips here. Lovely, and just breathing. Lovely. So I hope you've had a lovely stretch. I really enjoyed that. I feel it in my hips. And it's been nice to just kind of stretch over my legs a little bit more. And some of those rotational movements. I'm a huge advocate and fan of stretching in so many different ways. So I don't think there's necessarily a right way and a wrong way to stretch. It's just more about finding what feels right for you and for your body right at this moment. So sometimes a static stretch feels fine, and sometimes a dynamic stretch feels like it just hits it a little bit better. So stretch through movement. So I wanted to kind of just play around with those both. So I hope that's really helped your body today. So yeah, really, really good work, everyone, and really good for actually committing some time to doing it and giving your body some love, some attention, and stretching it out, because our bodies do need it. And I think of it as like giving my body a little bit of a treat for having that bit of movement. So I hope you kind of feel that love that you're giving to yourself as well. So yes, lovely. Right, let me pop. How do I get this back?